All right, so now we're on 1.3c. What is solubility? So by the end of this lesson, you should be able to define solubility, identify the solute and solvent in a solution, describe how the amount of solute, the temperature, and type of solvent affect the ability of a solution to be made. And then your vocabulary is solubility, solute, solvent, and solution. So let's first look at what is solubility. So solubility is the amount of solute that can be dissolved in a specific volume of solvent under the certain conditions. So these words are new. So it's the amount of solute that can be dissolved in a specific volume of solvent under certain conditions. So we're going to talk about that later on in this. So we're going to talk about how temperature affects it, and we're going to talk about how the amounts of the solute or the solvent depend on its ability to dissolve. All right, so now let's look at these new vocab words. Solute is the substance that's being dissolved. So again, solute is the substance that's being dissolved, so it's breaking down. So for example, in salt water, the solute is salt. So this is what's being dissolved. The salt is being dissolved when salt water is created. So now what is a solvent? Well, a solvent is the substance that's doing the dissolving. So back to our salt water example, the solvent is water. So water is doing the dissolving when you create salt water. Also, water is the most common solvent. So that's what's used in most things. It's used a lot in nature. In 8th grade, you'll learn about how water is a universal solvent. So, what is a solution? Well, a solution is created when a solute is dissolved in a solvent. So, our example again with salt water, the solution is the salt water that's being created. So these together is your solution. All right. So remember, your salt is your solute. That salt is dissolving. And then your water is your solvent. The solute plus the solvent equals solution. So now we're looking at two different things that affect solubility. So it affects how much can be dissolved. So increasing temperature increases the solubility for liquids and solids. So it doesn't do it for gases, but for liquids and solids, it increases the solubility. Increasing the temperature decreases the solubility for gases. So again, increasing the temperature increases the solubility for just liquids and solids. But increasing the temperature decreases the solubility for gases. So you can't dissolve as much if you increase temperature for gases. So how does the amount of solvent affect solubility? So supersaturation is when there is too much solute to dissolve and a certain amount of solvent. So if you put way too much salt, like if you take a cup of salt and try and mix it with a cup of water, that ratio is too far off and that salt will not be able to dissolve. So you need a good ratio of solute and solvent in order for it to create that solution. All right, so summary here. Solubility is the amount of solute, we use salt for our example, that can be dissolved in the solvent, remember water, to create a solution. So salt, solute, the water, solvent, and it created a solution. So remember, this is just an example. There's a bunch of different examples out there. Also, we learned that temperature affects solubility. So remember, higher the temperature, the more that can dissolve when we're talking about liquids and solids. But that decreases solubility when we're talking about gases. And then amount of the solvent and solute affects solubility. Remember, if there's too much salt, you can't, and not enough water, then it's not going to be able to create that solution.